Cassie here, welcome back to my channel. Just a quick disclaimer for this video, I am doing a critical reading of the book P.S. I Love You by Jenny Han. And if this is like your favorite book in the world and you just can't stand to see anybody say anything negative about it, then maybe this isn't the video series for you. I will be doing a critical reading of this book, critiquing the things I don't like and pointing out some of the things that I do like. But I want to remind you all that this is not for the sake of just crapping all over someone's work and making fun of it and just having fun laughing at someone for being a bad writer. This is primarily for educational reasons. I am an author and I've watched videos like this myself, and I feel that I learn so much from hearing what people don't like about a book and even like the little details. So I might be getting a little bit critical here and picking on the tiny things, but that's because I think that that helps us all to become better writers and see what not to do, what sounds a little bit off, and how to do it better. So now that that disclaimer is out of the way, let's get back to the reading. Hello and happy Tuesday for me, probably not Tuesday for you, but whatever. Time to do some more reading. I am on chapter 27, and I guess what just happened, oh yeah, she was talking to her dad about the video and stuff, and yeah, that's what happened. So let's get into chapter 27. You guys, the countdown has stopped. We have finally gotten to the introduction of the boy from her past. The promise of the premises finally being delivered on chapter 27, halfway through the dang book. And let me tell you, I was wrong. It's not Josh, which is stupid. So this guy named John Ambrose McLaren sent her a letter back in response to her love letter that Kitty sent out, because he hadn't gotten it yet until just now, and so I haven't finished reading his letter. I read like the first half of it, but oh my gosh, this is gonna be the guy who, like, supposedly, as the blurb says, another boy from her past returns to her life. Lara Jean's feelings for him suddenly return too. Could a girl be in love with two boys at once? Really? We're supposed to believe that Lara Jean's going to now be in love with this boy from this letter? We know absolutely nothing about this boy. Like, he's talking in his letter about all these cute, like, things they used to do. Like, oh, I remember this and this and this that we did when we were kids. And it's just, like, the emotional impact is completely lost on me as the reader because I don't know this person at all. I don't know anything about him. So it's just like, it's again just a lot of telling, like, hey, these two people have a lot of memories together and they liked each other a lot. And it's like, okay, but I didn't get to see those memories, so I'm just like not invested at all in this character. I don't know who he is. And like, there's this weird paragraph where she says, so she says she was describing a memory and says it was just Chris and John and me, and then Chris had to leave and it was just John and me. First of all, at this point, I don't know who John is. I'm sure he was mentioned in the first book when she sent the letters, but I don't remember. So I don't know anything about this person. And then after that, she said something about, we got so hungry, we tore into the bag of Skittles that Trevor had stashed under a loose floorboard. Who the heck is Trevor? I don't know this person at all. Like, is he related to John or something? Is that why we're supposed to know who he is? I just feel like it's really strange that the author is assuming we remember all these random facts about this guy that meant absolutely nothing in the first book. Obviously, I'm assuming this is going to be the guy that supposedly she's going to be in love with two boys at once. Like, I don't understand. And if that's going to happen, I'm still pissed off that it's taken this long to get to that point, because we could have been like, this is where it actually is getting mildly interesting to see what's gonna happen, and that could have happened, like, this long ago, maybe? Like, this much book could have just been cut out. I don't know. We'll see what's gonna happen. I'm just really thrown off by the fact that the boy is not Josh, which I guess is kind of cool because it's like, it's not what you expect, but it's not what you expect because Josh is the only person that would have made sense to be interesting to read about, because we don't know this John person. So unless she's about to get into some really, really hefty character development of John within the next part of the book, I don't see how I'm really going to care much about this, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so he said something about seeing her at the Model UN scrimmage at Thomas Jefferson, and she dropped off a letter for him, and I do kind of vaguely remember that now. So I guess of all the boys that she sent letters to besides Peter and Josh, this guy was probably the next runner-up as far as, like, most important, and, like, spent the most time thinking about him in the book. It's just, like, I don't know. Maybe I should have read the other book again, but there's no way I'm doing that because it was torture. But I don't know. I guess I'm just really confused here and interested to see what's gonna happen and how I'm gonna feel about this, because this was like the thing that I was like waiting for, and now it's like, oh, well, I don't even know if this is gonna be interesting, so we'll see, I guess. I'm not gonna lie though, he does sound kind of cute. Like, some of the things he says in his letter, gosh, I can't talk. Some of the things he says in his letter are kind of cute, and I don't like Peter, so I probably am going to ship him and Lara Jean immediately just because I don't want her to be with Peter. But then again, I don't really like Lara Jean that much either, so if I do like this John guy, then maybe I won't ship them because maybe he deserves better than her. So, I don't know. Anyway, we'll just have to see how this progresses. So I usually don't like it when authors like explain or recall things that happened in their first books, because it's like, obviously I know, I'm not coming into this book not having read the first one. I remember what happened. But in this situation, I do wish she would explain again, because she says that in middle school, John Ambrose McLaren and I had all of 2 romantic encounters. The spin-the-bottle kiss, which honestly wasn't the least bit romantic, and that day in the rain during gym, which up until this year was the most romantic moment of my life. I do not remember that at all. I don't know what she's talking about, and if it was the most romantic moment of her life, then I kind of want to know what it was, but I just don't remember because it was such a fleeting... Like, at that point in the story, it was clear that she was going to end up with Peter, so it's not something I really thought to retain, like, all the way up to this point of the second book, when John Ambrose McLaren hasn't been mentioned at all. It's like, why would I think to remember that? I don't know. I wish she would kind of go over that again, because I'm not going to go back and try to read the other book or find that, and I shouldn't have to. I should just get that from this book. But I don't know, that could just be me. Maybe other people reading that book do remember that part, but I definitely do not. There's another simile that I didn't like. This one's not as bad as some of the other ones, but she said, I liked his yellow hair, sunny and fair like white summer corn. I don't know. It's just not a relatable enough thing. I don't really... Why... I would never describe someone's hair color as looking like white summer corn. It just seems weird to me. Like, I don't know. Is it just me? I feel like that was a weird comparison, but it's not quite as bad as other ones, but it still felt unnecessary to me. And of course we have some more immature teen drama where Peter was texting Jen, and Lara Jean was jealous, and so she told him about the letter from John, and she's like trying to see if he might be jealous, and he doesn't sound jealous, and she seems like disappointed that he's not jealous, and it's all just so, well, I would say so high school, but I mean, they are in high school, but it's just, I know people in high school do act like this. This isn't like, I'm not criticizing this for being unrealistic. It's just that I've read so many YA books where people are so much more mature than this, and that is kind of a common critique, I guess, of a lot of YA books, is that people make their teen characters act so much like adults, and why not just write an adult novel then? So I guess, like, if that's something you don't like in YA, then you might like these books because they are so, like, just, these characters are very immature. But that's not something that I don't like in YA, because I was really, and I don't want to sound like braggy or something, but I was a very mature kid. I always have been. I don't think I've ever played games like this where I'm like trying to make my boyfriend jealous, ever. Even when I was like a lot younger and liked a boy, I didn't think like that. So to me, that's not relatable, and it just seems stupid, and like it makes me feel like this character is dumb. So not my favorite thing. So Lara Jean bugs me because sometimes she's like way too forgiving of Peter and acts like he's great when he's not being that great. And then other times she's just like way too critical of him, and it's really hypocritical because she was just talking about how she was jealous that he was texting Jen, but then she said, you know, he is telling me the truth, which is what we promised we would do. He's telling her that he was texting Jen, he's not keeping it a secret, and she admired that about him. And that's when she told him about getting the letter. But then now that she feels like he's not jealous enough for her liking, she's not telling him the truth anymore. Like, he said, what did the letter say? And she said, oh, you know, just how are you? The usual sort of things. I look out the window. I'm feeling a bit stingy about sharing extra information because his ho-hum reaction hasn't merited any. Doesn't he have the decency to at least act like he cares? Okay, first of all, he's asking you questions about what the letter said, so I don't see how that means that he's acting like he doesn't care. He could just not even ask you anything and say, oh, that's cool, you got a letter from him, neat, and then not talk about it. That would be acting like you don't care. And secondly, now you're deciding that the fact that he's not jealous enough means that he doesn't merit earning truth from you? Like, you just said that you had promised each other that you would always tell the truth, and that you want him to tell you the truth about texting Genevieve and stuff, but you're not going to tell him the truth about your letter? Like, it's just hypocritical and not a very flattering look. Alright, so let me see how long this next chapter is. It might be really short. Okay, it's really short, so I am going to read one more chapter. But the end of that chapter was basically, Peter was so clearly jealous. I don't know why she thought he wasn't jealous. She did finally get that he sounded jealous, but I don't know why it took her that long. But he just was asking her who she likes the best, and if she liked all the guys she sent the letters to equally, or if she liked some of them more. And she basically said to herself that she didn't like Peter the best of all the guys before. So, which again, I think would be kind of cool if she was gonna end up with John, but she's not. She's gonna end up with Peter, so I don't know. This next chapter is chapter 28, and it is just 2 pages of Lara Jean's letter back to John. So I'm going to read that now. Okay, so Lara Jean wrote a letter back to John, just talking about more memories and explaining how the letters got sent out. And she asked him to send her letter back so that she could read what she said, because she hadn't read it since she wrote it. But she's also complaining to him in her letter about Peter being annoying, which I found kind of funny. She was talking about how, like, Peter, like, do you remember how Peter always used to take the last piece of pizza? It was so annoying. She was just, like, just complaining about him to her new boy, which is dangerous territory. Also, Peter asked her to tell John that he said hi, and she didn't. So she also hasn't said anything to him about the fact that she's dating Peter. So that's quite interesting. The next chapter is a little long, and I kind of have to go and get ready for work, so I'm gonna stop right there. But that's cool, I guess. Things are finally happening. It's really hard, like, I'm so jaded at this point after 26 chapters of boring nothingness, but I feel like I have to kind of try to judge the rest of the story from, like, this point on, because I feel like this might actually be interesting, and I am, like, more entertained right now, and I want to read more and see what's gonna happen, but it's really hard to do that without remembering all the other nonsense that came before. Like, this book just would have been so much better if she had, like, beta readers or something tell her, hey, maybe take out, like, the first 20 chapters and then start at chapter, like, 25. I don't know. Like, it's just so much nothing. But alas, she did not take out the first 20 chapters, and I had to read them all, and they were all dumb and boring. So I'm a little bit jaded. But I will do my best to read the rest of the story, and judge it sort of independently from now on. Yeah. So, I'll get back to that later. You guys, I had to go back to the library to renew this freaking book. No, but seriously, that's okay. I'm just glad that I could renew it, because if someone had put it on hold or something, that I wouldn't have been able to, and there's no way in heck I am buying this book just for this video series. So I don't know what I would have done if I couldn't renew it. I should have read it faster, but I didn't. So here we are with a nice, fresh, renewed library book, and we're gonna get started reading chapter 29, so let's get into it. So I know I've mentioned this before, but it just drives me crazy how she always calls her dad daddy all the time. Not just, like, to his face, but in her own thoughts and in the narration. Like, she said the word daddy, let's see, 1, 2, 3... Wow, was it only 3 times in this paragraph? It felt like 5,000. That's how uncomfortable it made me. It's just kind of weird, and I don't like it. So Peter and Lara Jean are going up to their old treehouse, or Carolyn Pierce's old treehouse. I have no idea who Carolyn Pierce is, but this is just another moment I'd like to take to remind people to introduce things in your story before the moment that they become important. Like, if this is gonna be important and the writer realized that now, like, oh, they're gonna go up to this treehouse, then maybe earlier in the story mention something about the old treehouse they used to hang out in, so that it's not just all of a sudden this info dump of, we're going up to this treehouse and this is the significance of the treehouse, because apparently it was their old, like, hangout spot for all the neighborhood kids their age, and now she's going into just a whole long rant about, like, shenanigans that happened in the treehouse, and that would have probably been better to have maybe peppered in somewhere else instead of dumping all that information on us right at the moment that the treehouse becomes relevant. It just would have been a nicer callback if Lara Jean and Peter were, like, going up to the treehouse right now, and we were like, oh, that's cute, they used to play in that treehouse, you know, but I'm not feeling that way, because I didn't know they used to play in that treehouse until just now, so again, there's a moment of her meaning Jenny Han, kind of introducing something after it became relevant instead of foreshadowing it before. So she's talking about how they used to play in the treehouse, and they all used to play this game like, who would you pick to be with you if you were deserted on an island? And John, the new boy who just sent a letter to Lara Jean, he went through all of their merits, all of the people there, and the thing that he said Lara Jean was good at is that she would never give up hope of being rescued, and he picked her because of that, which is really sweet, and that's a nice moment. But it's like, I feel like it would have been maybe better to have given us this little flashback before John was introduced into the story, because now it's like the author introduced him and then was like, oh, now I have to make sure these people realize that John's also a really sweet, good boy, and that sounds like a dog, that he's also a catch, and that Lara Jean, liked him before, and this is why, because this is the kind of person he is. It would have been better if we had just been seeing little bits of that all throughout the story, so that when John came back into the story with his letter, we'd be like, oh, that's John. He's the one who picked her to be deserted on an island with. How sweet. That's really cute. And now it just feels like kind of manufactured, like the author is trying to tell me, hey, this guy, he's good because look what he did before, but I just never told you until now for some reason. I actually really like this line. So I do say good things sometimes. They're kissing in the treehouse, and she said, when we're knees to knees, he kisses me. Soft-lipped, we have all the time in the world kisses. And I thought that was a really cute line. So, good job on that. This whole paragraph is actually good. Good description of, Lara Jean's feelings, and not telling us, I'm really nervous right now, but, showing and not telling, which is rare for this book. Hey, you guys, I like this chapter so far. It's been good. That paragraph was good. Lots of showing and cute, flirtiness. They're kind of making out, and then they actually started talking like a real couple about real important things, because Lara Jean said she wasn't ready to have sex, and she, instead of just thinking about all the reasons why she's, nervous that he, misses having sex because he and Jen used to do it all the time, and now he's with her, and Lara Jean's virgin, and all this stuff. Instead of just thinking all of that and telling it to us, she actually said words out loud, and they're actually having a conversation about it, which is really, really good for once. So far, this chapter is maybe my favorite in the entire book. So, hopefully it doesn't end in some stupid petty argument. Let's see. So far, so good. They made it through their little makeout sesh without yelling and misunderstanding each other and not communicating well. They communicated very well, and they were snuggling, and he, smelled her hair and asked what new shampoo she's using, and she said that it was Margot's, and said, do you like it? And he said that he liked her old one better, and asked if she could switch back because he liked the smell of that one. And I thought that was really cute. This is the kind of stuff that they should have been showing us this whole time, is things that really show. That right there shows a level of intimacy. That's another good example of showing. You don't have to tell us, we've cuddled so much that he knows the smell of the shampoo that I wear. You just have him smell her hair and be like, your hair smells different. I liked the way it smelled before. That tells us something about how close these characters are. And I just don't understand why she hasn't been writing like this whole time, because this is really cute and sweet, and they actually talked about something real and aren't just doing nothing. And I don't know. This chapter's good so far. Hopefully, well, we've only got like a page left, so I don't think there's any way she can screw it up. So let's cross our fingers. Okay, she immediately screwed it up. Just kidding, not really. It's not screwed up, but immediately after I said that, like the very next 2 sentences, I have a problem with already. So she said, so they're cuddling, and she said, we're sitting there like that when suddenly I remember something, an important something. The time capsule! John Ambrose McLaren's grandmother gave it to him for his birthday in 7th grade. So again, a good example of maybe you should have told us this sooner. Like, maybe we should have already been thinking about the time capsule. Is it in the treehouse or something? Is that why she's thinking of it? If so, then if they were going up to the treehouse, we could have already been thinking, ooh, I wonder if she's gonna remember the time capsule, or, you know, or at least when she said, oh, I just remembered the time capsule, we could be like, oh yeah, that! I remember that too! But instead, it's just like, oh, okay, apparently there's a time capsule. I'm learning about this as she tells it to me. I just said a lot of stuff just now, and I had forgotten to press record, so I'm gonna say it all again. So, they remembered that they buried a time capsule with all their friends in their little friend group, and they had said that they were gonna dig it up after high school graduation, so maybe they will do that later in the book. We will see. And also, I'm going on record to say that chapter 29 was good, and I liked it. It was probably my favorite chapter so far, so let's see if she can top it. Alright guys, I kind of like John. He's kind of cute and flirty, and I'm enjoying it. He wrote her a letter back and said that he would give her letter back as long as she promised that she would give it back to him after she's done reading it, because he needs proof, physical proof, that a girl liked him in middle school, otherwise who would believe it? And then later he said, I have one question for you. How many letters did you write? Just wondering how special I should feel. Oh, John. So cute. So Lara Jean just wrote her response letter and yet again did not mention Peter. Well, she mentioned Peter, actually, but didn't mention that they're together, which is kind of worse than not mentioning him at all. She's mentioned him several times, thereby opening the door to say, by the way, speaking of Peter, he's my boyfriend. But she hasn't said that yet, so still treading on dangerous ground, I see. So she's eating oatmeal, and she said she wasn't sure if she likes oatmeal, and then she says, I will say there is something satisfying about it, the way it sticks to your insides like paste. Yeah, that sounds really satisfying. I'm not, like, a huge fan of oatmeal anyway, and she said that it had been sitting out for a while and was getting gummy, and it's like, there's nothing at all appealing about that. And having something stick to your insides like paste definitely doesn't sound satisfying. So, yeah, I'm not feeling you on that, Lara Jean. Here's another example of something weird that a character does that's just not natural and people don't do. Kitty was asking, Lara Jean was waiting for the mail and was like really excited about getting mail, and Kitty was asking her why she's so excited about mail and what's coming in the mail, and she said, if you must know, it's actually a letter from me, one of those love letters of mine you sent out. I reach across the table and pinch her arm. That's weird. Like, I just can't picture anybody doing that. Like, just playfully, like, oh, I'm gonna reach all the way across the table and pinch your arm. It's like, that's just weird. I can't speak. Oh my gosh, she just did it again. She literally said, we're just writing letters, Kitty. Also, don't snap at me. I lean in to give her another pinch and she jumps up before I can. It's weird. Nobody does that. It's so weird. Oh snap, you guys! John just asked her for her phone number. He also mentioned earlier in his letter to her just now that the only reason girls paid attention to him was because he was Peter's best friend. So this gonna hurt even more when she finally tells him that she's dating Peter. Oh snap! This letter. She just read her letter. Well, I mean, I read it. She read it too, I guess, in the story. But her letter that she wrote to John, and it is like way more serious and romantic than I thought it was gonna be. It's and Lara Jean screamed after reading this letter because she didn't remember it being so like. She says yearning, which is probably a good word. It is definitely that, and you really gotta tell him that you have a boyfriend, girl, because this is getting pretty serious. But I'm loving it because y'all know I don't really love Peter that much, and John seems like quite the catch. I think I've gotten spoiled from all the Sarah Dessen books that I read because I expect chapters to end with some kind of like somewhat profound statement. Like, I don't actually always like that Sarah Dessen almost always ends her chapters with something like so like poetically like symbolic, and sometimes it's a little much, but I do kind of like that they end like they feel very definitively ended, and I don't like that this book the chapters don't feel that way. So I just read chapter 31. It was like 2.25 pages, and it was just a conversation between her and her friend Lucas about that she's writing to John. I forgot she has another friend besides Chris. Lucas is the guy she wrote our letter to, and he ended up being gay. I barely remembered who that was. Like, this chapter started out with Lucas and I are sitting cross-legged in the hallway sharing a strawberry shortcake ice cream bar, and I was just like, what? Who's Lucas? I don't remember that. But then I remembered. So anyway, this chapter was just a conversation between them, and it was a cute conversation, but again, it feels weird that it's a whole chapter because normally I can't get over the laziness of that. Like, it just bugs me as a writer that how easy that would be if every time I wanted to have a new conversation with a new character or a new scene come up, I just made it into a new chapter. It's almost as if she wrote this book using Scrivener, and she used the scene functions, and she just didn't put any transitions between them to make them like a chapter. It was just like every scene is its own chapter, kind of. And it's just a little strange to me. It's driving me crazy that I know she's gonna end up with Peter. I hope I'm wrong somehow, but I really don't think I am. I'm pretty positive that's what happens. Because she keeps talking about John, and I just keep thinking, he's so much better for you. You guys fit together so much better, and I don't understand. I feel like it's supposed to be one of those things where it's like there's the boy that's safe and comfortable and like you're good with each other, but then there's the boy who's exciting and adventurous, and he's the one who like brings you out of your shell and stuff. But I feel like that sort of triangle only works if the exciting adventurous boy is like also has a lot more qualities that are really good, or if you're very like, I don't know, I just haven't really seen enough good stuff from Peter and Lara Jean's relationship to outweigh the fact that they just aren't like very compatible, and she and John just so clearly are. Like, she was talking about this day when she had seen John up in the treehouse reading, and she went out there with a couple of Cokes and a book, and they read all afternoon together. And then later in the day, Peter and Trevor showed up, and they put their books away and played cards with them. And she said at the time she was deep in the throes of liking Peter, so it wasn't romantic in the slightest. But I do remember feeling that our quiet afternoon had been disrupted, that I'd rather have just kept reading in companionable silence. That sounds fantastic to me, and that sounds like the kind of relationship, like, I just want them to be together now. I think some of this probably does come from me being older, because, like, maybe when I was younger, it might have been more exciting to read a story, kind of the fantasy of choosing the adventurous boy who brings you out of your shell, even though maybe that's not the wisest choice. But now I'm just old enough that I'm like, dude, you and John would have an awesome marriage and a great life together because you have so much in common and you have the same kind of temperament and you would just enjoy each other's company instead of like bickering all the time. And you know, I don't know, it's not my preference. I would always choose John every time if I was faced with these two types of people. That's just how I've always been, and I'm very happy with that now, obviously, because I'm happily married to a John. He's my John. We have a lot in common. We're relatively boring people, and I love it. I don't have any, like, desire to be with some guy who's gonna bring me on adventures and try to break me out of my shell and stuff. I'm like, no, my shell's pretty nice and comfy, actually. I quite like it in here. So, yeah, I want her to be with John, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so chapter 32 I just finished, and basically it was just about the people who own the house with the treehouse in it are selling their house, so the treehouse is probably going to be demolished. So Lara Jean decided she's going to make this party, and she's going to invite all their old friends to come over, and she's having like all the old like snacks and stuff they used to have, and they're going to dig up the time capsule and stuff, and there was some more little like memories and stuff. It was a pretty good chapter. That was a solid chapter. I would say I'm comfortable with that being a whole chapter. And then chapter 33, on the contrary, is a page and a half long, so I'm going to read that, and then I will stop for the night. The night. I was going to say day, but it's nighttime, so I changed it halfway through. Okay, I get that Lara Jean is kind of an immature teenager, but again, I'm allowed to say that I don't like that character. I wish she was more mature. Like, so Josh has a new girlfriend, and when she asked him about her, she said, there's no accounting for taste. I mean, that you'd pick her over Margot. And she says, it was a mean thing to say, but I'm not saying it to be mean to Liza Booker, who I don't even know. I'm saying it for my sister, for what she and Josh used to be together. Girl, your sister broke up with him. So, like, what? You have no right to say, like, he chose her over Margot. I mean, technically, I think when Margot came back from college, she, like, went back to Josh and said she wanted to be with him again, and then he said no. But that was after she had already broken up with him, like, a long time before that. So it's really unreasonable for you to be all sassy and act like he's doing something wrong or whatever by dating somebody else. And that's pretty much, like, it. That whole chapter, again, right after that other chapter that I said at least was a solid chapter, this one was literally, like, just the shortest, tiniest of scenes. It was like, Josh has a new girlfriend, and she saw them kiss outside, and then she asked him if they're a thing now, and he said yeah, and she said that sassy thing about him picking her over Margot, and he said, I didn't pick her over Margot, I barely even knew her in January. And then she was like, okay, why not be with Margot then? And he said it wasn't gonna work out, and that was literally it. And that's the whole chapter. That's not a chapter, Jenny Han. It's a scene. There's a difference. Or at least, in my opinion, there should be, because I don't like it. Anyway, that's gonna be it for me tonight. So we're stopping there after chapter 33, and I will pick this back up sometime tomorrow, probably. See you then. Alright, you guys, so that's gonna be it for this week's video. Things are getting much more dramatic, but also a little bit better. But also, I'm really over it in general. So, I'll see you next time for the next installment of this series. Bye!